Major handouts in Manchin deal delighting oil and gas industry. So they have this big thing. What's the name of the bill? It's called Fighting Inflation or something. And they did that. It's a climate change bill because Joe Manchin wouldn't sign on to a climate change bill, and he's the real president. So they had to change the name of the bill. They called it Fighting Inflation. But Manchin got all these cutouts for the oil and gas industry, so it kind of fights greenhouse gases, and then it gives you way more greenhouse gases.
Can we hire him, Joe Manchin?
So he calls it right. He calls it the middle. He calls it like a sensible. It's like not radical. So we have a lot more global warming, and then we fight it. But we produce a lot more global warming, and then we. You think I'm kidding? Watch this. So there's a provision. Listen closely to what he says, because they're not allowed to even do green energy like windmills and stuff unless they also simultaneously first give oil permits for oil and gas and stuff. I'm not kidding.
It was time they had a win.
You can't do wind and windmills unless you are also simultaneous. Watch this.
You've got to produce your way out of this. You can't sit back and wait your way out of it.
So you're going to open pipelines?
Absolutely. We're going to build pipelines. We're going to do more
How
drilling.
are you going to sell that to the president?
So they're going to build pipelines. So remember with the XL pipeline that Obama wouldn't sign off on it and all. They're going to do all that stuff now and build more pipelines. Remember DAPL and all that stuff. What he's saying is we're going to do it all. We're doing it all. It's not only are we doing it, it's required. Watch.
To the United States,
It's
who on
already
day
been sold.
one
It's already been sold
flipped the
and
switch.
bought. It's already been. It's part of the deal. It's part of the bill.
So she's asking him, how are you going to get the president of the United States and the Democrats to go along with this? He's saying they already did. They already went along with it. It's in the bill.
This is like the end of the movie Watchmen, where he's telling them his evil plan, the bad guy. And he's like, already did it an hour ago.
Yeah, they already did it.
I like that she's doing her Chuck Schumer impression.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love it.
All you have to do is read the bill, Harris, and you'll see. You're not going to be able to do any more offshore wind or offshore or onshore solar and wind unless we're absolutely doing more production with drilling and extraction.
So you're not allowed to do solar. You're not allowed to do wind energy unless you are simultaneously committing to extracting more oil and gas.
That's great. They connected those things.
Isn't it?
Finally, like, oh my God.
It's all part of a balanced approach. We need more
balanced
energy
diet.
today,
Balanced.
and we also need to invest in the energy for the future. This is a balanced approach that everyone's been talking about, but everyone's upset for whatever reason because they're afraid it's a political bill. This is not a Democrat bill.
Oh,
This
he's
is not a
calling
Republican
Republicans.
bill.
All right.
This is
There-
not a green
Yes.
deal. This is a red, white, and blue deal, Harris. And everyone's having a hard time understanding that we can walk and chew gum and do the great thing together if we'll still start looking at our country
Look,
first and quit worrying about our politics.
What they see is a senator who they thought was moderate, who might push back on some of the talk about
I have pushed back
forcing
on
us
everything,
into
Harris.
a green situation.
I have pushed back on.
Are they?
They don't want to get into a green situation, and they're upset that he's even going along with this, even though he got it all gutted. He got them to get.
Hey,
This is a giveaway. The oil companies are happy, but the Fox News host isn't. She wants it to be even worse. He knows he did
he has to explain to
her that no, this is horrible.
He should throw in. He goes, and listen, I made sure insulin's not going to come down at all.
Yes.
Before you hear me out.
He has to explain to the Fox News host that no, this is horrible. I've done the bidding of the gas companies.
Red, white, and blue, baby.
It's all been taken care of already. She wasn't ready for this segment. Here we go. So David Sirota, friend of the show, tweeted this out. He says Manchin is now screaming the quiet part out loud, bragging to Fox News about what the bill actually does. That's exactly right. That's the part they weren't telling you. But he just did it on Fox News to calm down the Republicans. So here's what they're doing. Fossil fuel companies that are already posting record profits could benefit massively from the part of the legislation that requires
no using any wind until you finish your oil.
How can you have your pudding if you don't drill for oil? So requires drilling in the Gulf of Mexico and off the coast of Alaska. It requires it. Another potential boon is the bill's mandate that oil and gas lease sales be held before the federal government can greenlight new solar and wind development. So you got to give away the federal lands to the oil companies before you can do anything solar or wind. Do you see what they did? This is a wet dream for the oil companies. The that's what they call it, the Inflation Reduction Act. It injects $369 billion into programs to support renewable energy production and innovation and creates the clean energy economy that can power this country into the future while finally spending real money to clean up deadly fossil fuel pollution while spending real money to create more.
So it creates jobs too?
Right? So this is from an environmentalist, but then they switch and go, but the tax credits that extend the life of the dirty coal plants will make it harder to reach critical targets for clean power. And we are outraged that this deal would undermine historic investments in clean energy by holding wind and solar projects hostage to massive new oil and gas leasing off our coasts and on our public land. Yeah, that's the problem.
Hey, what do you want? They tie your health care to your job. What do you... Think of it like a marriage, a bad marriage.
So at first they're saying, look, we got $369 billion for climate change. And then they're like, yeah, but they're going to make climate change $370 billion worse.
And also, what are the programs? I'd like to know exactly what the programs are. They're going to give a grant to a foundation that calls another guy that does a thing that doesn't do anything.
Right.
That's what that means.
Coalition calls on Biden and Schumer to ditch fossil fuel provisions in the Manchin deal. In a letter on Friday, 360 environmental and community organizations, not people, organizations, asked Joe Biden and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to hold the line against fossil fuel expansion. They did not. They are not holding the line. The CBD's press statement said that this is a climate suicide pact. It's self-defeating to handcuff renewable energy development to massive new oil and gas extraction. So you can't have a windmill unless you do massive new oil. So they're just canceling it out. Hey, we're going to give you $369 billion to help fight climate change, but we're going to make climate change worse by $370 billion.
Can I have a fan? Did you drill in the Gulf?
The new leasing required in this bill will fan the flames of the climate disasters torching our country, and it's a slap in the face to the communities fighting to protect themselves from filthy fossil fuels. Hey, look, Exxon CEO loves what Manchin did for the big oil in the $370 billion deal. He's happy about it. Exxon supporting Biden's climate plan tells you everything you need to know about its potential effectiveness.
Right.
It's not effective.
They have a higher ESG score than Elon Musk.
I know. Here's what Ryan Knight said. He said, if you're wondering why Exxon CEO is celebrating Biden's climate deal, it's because it's not a climate deal at all. It's a fossil fuel deal that provides 2 million acres of onshore public land and 60 million acres of offshore public land to big oil every year for a decade. That's why. And so that's what Joe Manchin was like, hey, no, this is shitty, believe me.
It took me a half a second to realize what I was watching,
Yes.
that this woman's grilling him about being too much of an environmental pussy.
Yes.
My guess is with this story is what's happened over the past several years with all the big like oil and gas projects in the United States. They're going to build them up and they're going to get to them to the point where they can be approved for, usage. And then they're going to say, no, we're not going to approve it, because of environmental concerns. And then Joe Biden or whoever the next president is going to go prostitute themselves off to Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Venezuela again to ask for their oil because their oil is somehow cleaner or better than the oil that we could produce here. I mean,
all right, we get it. Trump's going to be back.
The whole thing is so laughable. It's just a handout to the fossil fuel execs in the United States.
You guys just don't like diversity in your energy. You're like racist about energy, kind of.
Yeah, you're an energy racist.
Why? Because oil's dark. That's why you don't like it.
That's right.
You like a nice big white fan, I bet.
Hey, we're doing live stand-up comedy coming to your town: Indianapolis, Louisville, Cincinnati, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Detroit, Rochester. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets for all our dates. See you in Denver, too.